Welcome to the Murfreesboro.com podcast, where we talk about all things Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Join host John I. Carey, his co-host Jonathan Harmon, and producer Trent Denson as they talk about all the great things happening in our city. From construction updates to local business spotlights to all the amazing events happening in our community. Listen in for all you need to know from Murfreesboro.com. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Murfreesboro.com podcast. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm just going to go out right off the bat. I'm excited about this one. I'm so excited about this one.
Yep,
we have wonderful, wonderful guests with us, and we're coming out with our January first guest of the year with a bang on this one, I think. So
yeah, because we weren't guests last week, right?
No, just kind of the update, what we were doing and that sort of thing. So apologize, I jumped ahead. John here, Jonathan there, Trent, producer Trent behind. He's off mic today.
He gave up his mic because we have a really cool guest.
That's right.
That, quite frankly, we'd rather hear from. Sorry, Trent. Yep. Love you.
And then Jeff, of course, all the way over there in the. Oh, he waved. All right. And then our wonderful guest. Thank you. We know you're all very busy, so we appreciate your time. We have Army Lieutenant General Keith Huber and his lovely wife, Shelly.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. So, I admit I'm kind of nervous about this one.
I know. Yeah.
I know.
I'm speechless.
That's
weird.
That's a first.
I know.
I know. We were joking last week talking about it, and I said, "How do I address him? Like, he said, you shake his hand." I said, "I don't salute or anything." He said, "No, you shake his hand."
I said, "Were you in the military?" He said, "No." I said, "Then you shake his hand."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you again for coming. Really appreciate it. So, but you've got quite. Let's see. We talked about the Veterans Center. We got you and all kinds of stuff. But before we jump into that, generally we like to try and get to know the guests and the people on the show. And so, like I was saying earlier, we get so many press releases with your pictures and all this other stuff. I feel like we know you, but we don't know you.
That's right. So real quick, General is here for running the Veterans Center. What is the official name of the?
It's the Charlie and Hazel Daniels Veterans and Military Family Center, and we're privileged to have Dr. Hillary Miller as the director of the center. Mm-hmm. And it was Dr. Miller and I that made the initial proposal to University President McPhee in May of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Has it been that long?
I know, right?
Wow.
And it's the largest one in the country, isn't it?
You're correct, sir. It's the physically largest at 3,200 square feet, absolutely, totally dedicated to our veterans and their precious military families. Mm-hmm. But it's the most comprehensive in its approach to supporting veterans and their families on an academic campus in the nation. And it's not restricted to people that have MTSU credentials. Mm-hmm. So unlike any other place, we serve veterans and their families literally worldwide.
That's
answer
amazing.
Their questions, help them with their paperwork, give them advice. And President McPhee does that without any requirement that you're affiliated with Middle Tennessee State University. And that's one of the reasons that I'm here, is out of respect for doing the right thing for the right reason and not solely as a recruitment tool.
That's it. And, Dr. Miller talked about that a whole bunch when she was on. And I'm pretty plugged in with MTSU and the community there. I served on the National Alumni Board when the center opened, actually, and got to hear you speak at that time. You spoke to our group and was there for the ribbon cutting when Mr. Daniels was there and all of that, which we lost him last year, right? Mm-hmm. Or 2 years ago now. It all blends together.
Wow, it does.
Yeah, has it been 2 years?
Well, it will be on the 6th of July, and our nation, as you gentlemen know, we lost a true patriot.
Absolutely.
He and Miss Hazel are just wonderful human beings. And Department of Defense made a special exception because Mr. Daniels, in spite of all his unparalleled support to our military, he wasn't a veteran.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And Department of Defense granted the exception so that we could provide military honors. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's wonderful.
on the 8th of July, why I presented the American flag that had draped his casket to Miss Hazel on a bended knee and looked her in the eye and said, I promise you Charlie's legacy will continue forever and will expand in serving veterans and their families.
I got chills.
I know,
All
right?
the hairs on my arm are standing up
that's
right
wonderful.
now.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was. I didn't realize all that. But so let's table that for just a second. Let's talk about you guys. How did you get here? I know your life is. I mean, obviously, you've risen through the ranks, literally, in the military. And tell us about how you got started in service and kind of that journey a little bit, because I'm sure you guys have moved all over the place.
My grandfather served in World War I, left the small farm in Illinois only twice in his life.
Oh, wow.
Once was to go to World War I.
Oh, wow.
And he was a military police private in World War I. And so his second departure from his farm, I thought, was to accompany me. But knowing his military police background, it was probably to escort me to West Point.
I got you.
To ensure that I didn't change my mind and try to go AWOL at the last minute.
There's a fine line between escort and accompany.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't know it at the time. My father left that same small farm in Illinois and went to World War II.
Wow.
And flew P-38 fighters in the Pacific.
Wow.
And when I tell that to Air Force officers, they start twitching, and I go, stop. You need to know your history. It was the Army Air Corps.
That's right.
In World War II, the Air Force hadn't been created
That's correct.
yet. And then I stopped shy of going, and it should still be that way.
I had a feeling something like that was coming, but yeah.
But, you know, my father now has been gone for 19 years, but he never criticized his simple-minded son, but I know in his heart he wished I had been a fighter pilot. I had the privilege to serve 38 years of my life on active duty as an infantryman in a Green Beret.
Whoa.
And so I was brought up in a family of those generations that you served your nation, and nothing was thought about it. I went to West Point on the 1st of July, 1971, not because I knew what I was about to enter as a career or a profession, but because of the look of pride I saw in my parents' eyes, and I went, this can't be bad. I had already been accepted at Cornell and University of Maine, and I went to West Point, having visited there once. And I tell people that West Point's a beautiful place to visit, but it was a long 4 years. So I never imagined that I'd serve a career in the military, and I'm thankful for the opportunity.
Sure. And now, when did you meet your lovely bride?
We met at Fort Drum, New York, 30 miles from the Canadian border. She was born and raised in Watertown, New York.
No way.
I
lived in Clifton Park. I apologize.
Really?
Yeah, like right down the road from here. I apologize. Sorry, I interrupted, sir. That blew my mind. Wow. Okay.
I grew up in upstate New York learning to hate snow.
There's a lot of it.
And so we met right after 9/11. In fact, trying to have her, she owned a business which involved catering and a restaurant. And so I hired her to cater one of my events. I was there at Fort Drum as a 1-star. And it was right after 9/11. And so before she could come on post, why the military police went to her establishment with the dogs.
Oh, wow. Really? See the eyes. Oh,
and
gosh.
decided to determine very meticulously whether the scallops and the shrimps were terrorists.
You got to watch out for the scallops. Let me
They
tell
had
you.
the dogs in the truck smelling everything. I'm like, listen, buddy, those dogs have got to get out of here.
Yeah, I have a health score to maintain. Thank you very much.
Get them out of here.
Oh, that's funny. So basically what you're saying is before you were completely smitten, you had a full background check run on her. Is that what it amounts to?
Like, oh, she checked out. We're good.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
I'd like, with your permission, to shift this discussion a little bit.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And to emphasize my appreciation for what you gentlemen are doing right now as you communicate with the American people. And you do it, I mean, I can't sit here with you and not recognize or appreciate your genuine sincerity and your humility as you communicate with people that are seeking to hear information that is accurate and unbiased and apolitical, and you're not using this platform in a destructive, malicious, derogatory fashion. And unfortunately, for my foxhole, our society has lost their civility. Our current chronological adults say things that they would never say in front of their parents.
That term was not lost on me, by the way, chronological
Yes.
adults.
And so I thank you. I mean, I'm here honored to be invited, but I'm here not because I'm bored or I don't have other things to do. I'm here because I think what you do is important and value added and honorable. And so I thank you for that.
Thank you.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I know, man.
Like, I'm actually getting teary-eyed. I'm sorry. That was very nice of you to say.
Thank you very much, General.
Really appreciate
And,
that.
we do it because, number one, we love our community. And number two, there's so much good stuff going on that just people aren't aware of because, as you said, there's apparently more important things for other people to talk about. And so John and I and Trent and Jeff, all of us, it's our mission, if you will, to as Trent says, bring light to what's going right. That's the spread the positive motto. And you guys definitely have some things that are going right. So it definitely fits. So we appreciate you, and I may actually have you snip that little part out, and I can put that on my computer. And when I'm feeling bad, I'll just play that.
I was literally just thinking, can we cut that out and put its own little clip?
Yeah, that's better than anything I put in my How Great in My folder that makes me
Sorry,
feel
that really
better.
got me teary. I'm sorry.
Thank you, General. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about which one of you wants to go first.
Doesn't matter.
I would prefer that my hero go.
Outstanding.
Oh, man.
One of the strategic messages that I constantly battle, and forgive me, but I'm going to use this incredible platform to discuss it.
Sure.
Is because less than 0.5% of the American public have currently ever worn a uniform. They don't know who their veterans are. And so they gather their perceptions or ideas from books or movies or people who write books or people who get on the TV and criticize those in the arena.
I agree.
And they try to simplify, compartmentalize who our veterans are. And so you'll hear the dialogue of our veterans are a hero, or they're homeless and they're helpless and they're drug addicted and they're suicidal and they're dangerous. I shared with you, I spent 38 years as a Green Beret. I got 5.5 years in combat with people in a very organized, energetic fashion trying to kill me every day. Mm-hmm. And I can look you in the eye and say, I never did anything heroic on the battlefield. I did what I was trained to do. I did what the person to my left and right would do. I did what we were expected to do. I bear the responsibility and the burden of those who died with me and for me. But our heroes are our families. Our heroes are our sons and daughters who never know if they'll see their parent again. Our heroes are people like Shelly, who tried to be both mom and dad at the same time and carried on with life, never knowing if I was going to return. I mean, my last 2 years on active duty, I spent 2 years in Afghanistan.
Wow.
And it's funny because, you know, the first year she shared with me, she goes, I didn't want to answer the door. I didn't want to answer the phone. I was convinced somebody was going to call me and tell me you were killed in Afghanistan. And she goes, it wore me out.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
And then I have this test of my moral courage because I'm going, okay, that was the first year. You know, and do I have the courage to go, okay, what'd you do the second year?
Right.
You know,
sometimes you don't
date
want to
the
know.
FedEx guy, or
Oh gosh,
and
I love that look. I'm sorry, that was great.
and so I go, well, what'd you do the second year? She goes, I said, screw it, it's God's will. You're well trained. And I go, hey, how about a little more empathy here? You know, but I'd like, you know, and her point to me, when the military member returns from combat, especially from combat, why people are focused on providing resources. But nobody reaches out to the family.
Sure.
And she goes, who's asking me how I feel? And so you see my emphasis on our precious military family members. You know, we're the only place on an academic campus that includes the families in our assistance, in our thoughts, in our willingness, because it's all focused on the military member.
Sure. Well, and Shelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can only imagine the range of emotions. Obviously, you're grateful and thankful that they're back, but then you also got to fit them back into your life and into your natural rhythms. And I mean, it's an adjustment for everybody, isn't it?
It is. It is a huge adjustment. You know, from the minute that you get the call that he's getting deployed, and then you hear, okay, he's getting deployed. But then when you hear for how long? 2 years?
And where?
And where are you going? And gosh, the news isn't really good over there.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to go through that emotional standpoint of, okay, how do I handle things? How do I go through? And typically when your soldier leaves, you're there and you have a family unit, but because deployments were so rampant at that time, you know, most families would leave the base and go visit family and so forth. But having a small child, you know, we stayed close. And my family was, you know, in New York, and we were in Virginia for most of it. So it wasn't far, so we would travel back and forth. But still, you're left there by yourself wondering. And every time you would see a black sedan, you'd be like, where's he going? Whose house is he going to? And because he has a lot of friends that were working at the Pentagon, they would come visit. And I would see them pull up, and I'd be like,
oh, gosh.
Is this the time?
and it'd be like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, you guys are driving me nuts.
Yeah. Can you have a signal or something?
Right.
Let me know you're
Can you
coming?
Pull up in a
Call me.
sports car, maybe,
Yeah, right.
you know, put on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Can you guys call before you come?
Yeah, right.
Right.
But yeah, trying to fit him back into the routine, especially after being gone 2 years. Alexis and I, our daughter, had our own routine.
Yeah, that's right.
We had our own system.
Because you've got to
move
maintain,
forward. We
right?
have to move forward.
Absolutely.
And so when he came back, it was kind of like, okay, well, I gotta remember it. Oh yeah, you want coffee too?
Yeah, right. She doesn't like her toast like this, or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
I like that. It's even the little things. I know you joke, but like, oh, you want coffee too? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like,
because you just get in
you
that
know,
routine.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is he takes it black, so it was very easy.
Very
right?
simple.
It was simple. I had to teach him how to load the dishwasher, little things like that as he returned back. But it is an adjustment. That's, as I tell Keith all the time, I think one of the main issues that I have with our military career was they prepare the soldiers so much for deployment. There's not much for the family.
Sure.
So we learn as we go along, the wives, the spouses, the children. We learn to endure. We learn our inner strengths, and we pull from the strengths from history, from what our forefathers and foremothers did during those periods of time.
Sure.
We constantly were reminded that, we had the ability to type up an email and send it, or pick up the phone where, back in World War I, World War II, they had to wait for the postmaster to show up.
At some point, especially if they're on the battlefield, who knows, right?
You never knew. You never knew what was going on.
You have to excuse me, a little naive on this one, but like depending on the deployment or where you were going, like in your case, is it like you said, they're so well trained to be like, okay, we got to go, but is it literally like you get the notice up and gone, or do they give you, a couple days, or how does that work? Because I was wondering how you prepared.
In our specific situation of 2 years in Afghanistan, we were at a conference with very senior general officers, and it happened to be the day that our forces killed bin Laden. Oh, wow. And they had a cocktail party. It's funny, Shelly and I were there, and we were drinking a nice Shiraz, and the chief of staff of the Army walks up and goes, Huber, I need you to do something. And I suppose if somebody had been there recording it, they would have found it amusing. But Shelly and I looked at each other, and we both said in unison, we're here to serve.
Oh, wow.
And he goes, I need you to go to Afghanistan.
After he had told me he probably will never be deployed there because he was more Central and South America.
And so I joke with Shelly, we're looking at this Shiraz going, gee, we should be drinking tequila right now.
Right. Can I trade this in,
Can
please?
you strengthen this up just a bit?
And so Shelly and I looked at each other, and we turn our heads back and go, we're here to serve. And then he went, and I need you to do it for 2 years. And I didn't say a bloody thing. Shelly looked at him and said, I'll tell our 5-year-old daughter.
Okay, right.
So, and she talked about people who would swing by Fort Belvoir, Virginia, out of courtesy to, we're talking Secretary of Defense, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Chief of Staff of the Army, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and they'd swing by the house, and of course they're accompanied by all sorts of security.
Were they accompanied or escorted?
No, they're accompanied. And they'd look at Shelly and go, hey, I just saw your soldier in Afghanistan. He's okay. He's a little bumped up, a little bruised up, a little tired, a little dusty. He's doing a great job. Can't tell you what he's doing. God bless you. Mm-hmm. And then they'd look at our daughter, Alexis Ann, and they'd go, where's your daddy? And she'd stand up straight and go, Afghanistan. And they said, too many of them said, I'm sorry.
Really?
And Alexis would look at Shelly and she'd go, Mommy, why are they saying I'm sorry? Daddy's a soldier. He's taking care of the bad guys. He's keeping us safe. Why are they sorry? Because her expectation was that people would comprehend what she was willing to sacrifice. And then they typically go, well, when's he coming home? He left when I was 5. He'll be home when I'm 7.
How old is she now?
15.
15. We need to get her on here with you guys.
Absolutely.
And how do you comprehend that? How do you wrap your mind around that level of sacrifice? I'd been gone about 20 months. And one day Alexis looks at Shelly and she goes, Mommy, when's Daddy coming home? How many more bad guys can there possibly be?
Oh.
And nobody wanted to look her in the eye and go,
Too many to count.
unfortunately, there seems to be an unlimited supply of evil people who would attempt to steal our freedom and harm our families. That's the world we live in.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Wow. Out of the mouths of babes, huh?
Wow.
How many more can there possibly be?
Right.
Sorry. This is the first podcast we've done where I feel speechless. Like y'all, this is incredible listening to y'all. I'm sorry, but anyways.
Well, let's come back to the center for the veterans and families. Let's talk about the initiative that you've started.
Okay. Well, what I'm working on right now is helping support our local nurses. As you all know, this pandemic has not only wiped us out, but our medical system is in great stress.
It's exhausting.
And a lot of us take our medical system for granted until we need it. And when we go, let me tell you, I want to make sure I got some great nurses and some great doctors and a bed for me to go into.
They feel good about what they're doing.
That's
and
right.
They're fresh.
Happy to see me,
right.
and happy to take care of me. But, with this recent pandemic, they're stressed. And I can relate to that from our military background, seeing soldiers come back from battle, from deployments, exhausted and worn out. It's important that we take care of their mental state so that they go back into battle, go back to work in a fresh and willing way to help support all of us in the community. So as I talk to some of the administrators and local nurses, the common denominator was we're exhausted. So with my Mary Kay business, I thought there's got to be something that I can do to help them. And self-care, mental care is such a huge component of making sure that everybody is in the top shape. So we're putting together little self-care packets that hopefully they will go home, even if they take 20 minutes and just 20 minutes for themselves to pamper themselves and just to relax.
Yeah. Just breathe.
Just take a minute to breathe. And unfortunately, they go from the hospital setting, they go home, they're making dinner, they're doing this, they're doing that, and they never take that 20 minutes just for themselves. And 20 minutes may not seem like a long time, but it is when you're going 108 miles an hour all day long. So we're putting these together. There's just simple Mint Bliss energizing lotion, some hydrogel eye patches, a charcoal mask. It has a tea bag, a few chocolates, and an encouraging note just to let them know that their community is behind them. I have delivered close to 1,500 of them thus far.
Holy moly, 1,500?
1,500.
Wow. Okay.
And we're still working. I still have another 600 to get done to do for St. Thomas, and I'm still about 200 away from Smyrna's Hospital, Stonecrest. We've already taken care of Trust Point, and we've done the VA. And every time that I deliver them, the nurses are like, wow, what company brought these to us? And it's like, it's not a company. It's your community. Because each one of these were purchased from someone in the community thinking of you as an individual nurse and wanted to bless you with this. And I've had nurses cry. They're just like, wow, thank you. I mean, it's nice to be heard. It's nice to be seen. It's nice to know that somebody's recognizing our hard work out here.
Well, you just said those were, purchased and provided by people in the community. Sure. If people watching or listening wanted to get involved, how could they help out?
Well, they can contact me through you. I'll leave my information with you all, and then you can share my information that way.
So I met Shelly at Rotary Club. She came and spoke there a little bit, and we took a collection up amongst the club. And, it's not a nonprofit. It's not a 501c3. It's the community literally giving to support the people that are supporting us.
Absolutely. And I'm putting these together at no cost, at no profit for me at all. These are right at cost. It cost me $9.80 to put these together. And I have some local friends that come and they help me put these all together. Our garage is like Santa's workshop.
He's like, oh boy.
The general reaction, he goes, can we please finish this project?
No, I was chuckling because last night watching the Titans football game, I'm helping her put these packets together.
Yes. It's a nonstop. He'll call and go, can I get in the garage tonight? I'm like, no.
Nope.
Just give me a couple minutes to shuffle some things around.
That's fantastic.
But they cost me $9.80 to put together. They're $10, and we're just spreading some love and some support through our local nurses through our community. And that's one of the things I love about, especially being a new resident here in Murfreesboro, the amount of support that I'm finding is
So you need, quick math, you got about 800 left. Is that right?
Okay.
So times
So
10,
$8,000.
so we need about $8,000
Yes.
to finish
You'd
that.
be amazed at what, like, we, not only us, but other people have posted things that we've seen like that.
We're
And
calling you out, Murfreesboro
That's
and
right.
Rutherford County.
That's right.
We need $8,000 to finish the project.
Yep.
So
Yes. Let's bless our nurses.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
But you reflect on this, and once again, I don't think we can express appreciation too much. I mean, we spend so much of our day, we waste so much of our day not being decent human beings.
so true.
And so here we are on this communication network talking about thanking people in a very simplistic way. And I think that's great. I mean, we need to do that more. When I do leader development with the businesses and the executives, one of the points I make to them is, okay, if you knew today was your last day, if you knew that, what would you do? Who would you write? Who would you call? Who would you say, I forgive you, or ask their forgiveness? Who would you say, I love you? And if you find yourself rearranging your day in a dramatic fashion, you should pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately, regardless of our profession,
it could be.
How do you want to be remembered?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the chaos in our communities and our world today could be your last day. And so
very easily,
how do you want those words on your headstone to read? And you pray that they say, hey, Huber wasn't too bright, he was persistent, but he tried his best. He tried his best to be an honorable soldier and a loving father and husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's well said. Mm-hmm. Well, Shelly, thank you for what you're doing.
No, thank you for letting me share it with everyone in the community. This, like I say, the community has been phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Everybody I talk to, they're like, if it's for the nurses, let me know what I can do to help.
We'll get that out, and you guys heard it. I mean, $10 serves one nurse. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
exactly.
If you've got $5 with another $5 serves one nurse. Yeah. So, if you've got
skip your Starbucks one day, team up with a friend, and there you go.
That's it. You can go to a taco instead of the fajita order one time during the week and pay for one nurse. That's okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. There we go.
Yes.
My man Trent.
Win over there.
That's it. See, that's how it's done right there. Right. Yeah. Listen to the bald guy. That's right. Right?
Oh, that's awesome.
No, thank you.
For those listening who didn't see, Trent just donated to the cause.
That's right. Two nurses served right there.
Two nurses served right there.
Attaboy.
Bam.
Well, General, let's talk a little bit about the center and get into some of the nuts and bolts of the mission of the center. And one of the things you mentioned, and Dr. Miller mentioned as well, is that you guys serve the community, not just the MTSU community. You guys serve the families, not just the soldier. And the specific things that you guys do at the center with the mental health, with, just getting through some of the forms, for Pete's sake.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I mean,
she mentioned that.
I know you're a government servant. I know you've done a whole lot for the government, but good gracious, the forms, that's a little ridiculous sometimes, right? I mean, it's okay to criticize just a little on that. But so kind of walk us through some of that. Those specific pieces there.
Thank you. We average 1,100 military-related students, veterans and military family members that are enrolled each semester as students at MTSU.
I didn't know it was that high. That's a lot. That's
semester?
Great.
Wow. Okay.
So any university that accepts federal funding for the post 9/11 GI Bill, if you will, which can also be transferred to military family members. Why, they're required to have a certifying officer that'll say, okay, this is a legitimate class. It is a requirement for a legitimate degree completion. They communicate that to the VA. The VA pays the university. So that academic advising is essential, but it really doesn't do much more for the veteran.
Right.
And so as you look at colleges and universities across the nation, they have that certifying officer requirement if they receive VA funding. And the reason I say comprehensive approach is Dr. Miller and I said, okay, we've got to have this requirement to be able to get the money to the university. But what would distract? Because you said it. I mean, these veterans, this semester average age is 28.6 years. 95% of them are married. So they aren't there for the campus, college, party time experience.
Sure.
They're there because this academic credential is their next mission. They, like any adult learner, I would suggest, is there because they appreciate the value of an academic degree in the context of the ability to secure better employment to care for their family.
Right.
I mean, as you look at the military community, I mean, 500,000 veterans in the great volunteer state. Of any military community, less than 10% are retirees, meaning they've served 20 years or more, meaning that they have some retirement benefits. So 85, 95% of your veteran community are non-retirees, which means the only benefits they have are VA benefits. Gotcha. And as we talk about paperwork complexity and confusion, I mean, we'll talk more about VA benefits in a minute. But so here I am. I walk in as a student at Middle Tennessee State University, and what do I need? What would distract me from focusing on academic excellence? Gee, I wonder if my spouse is going to be able to find a job. I wonder if my children will be able to find a job. Who can help them with resume? Who can connect them to the business world? Gee, I wonder how I get my VA benefits. How do I get a hospital appointment? How do I get to pharmacy? Gee, I'm feeling a little bit nervous now.
And you've not even stepped foot in class yet.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing anybody who takes off a uniform loses is a sense of purpose. I mean, I'm absolutely convinced, and I've told a lot of the people that I had the privilege to serve with, particularly in Afghanistan, that I'm absolutely convinced that what we did made the world safer.
Sure.
There's no question in my mind. The families who lost their soldiers that I buried, they did that keeping our world safe. But all of a sudden, you're no longer surrounded by people you can unconditionally trust, people that literally you're willing to give your life for at a moment's notice. And so who do you go to ask a question? Who do you go to that somebody isn't going to try and manipulate your thought or sell you a widget or make you sign a document?
Yeah.
And that's why it was so important. And that's why President McPhee at Middle Tennessee State University is a unique patriot. He's not a veteran, but he has the courage to do the right thing for the right reason, whether anybody thanks him, acknowledges it, recognizes it. He made the decision that he would allow me to use our Daniels Center as a welcome center for veterans and their families worldwide. I mean, you can imagine the privilege to serve 38 years of my life on active duty. I've served hundreds of thousands of men and women who ask me for advice, who call me. It's not unusual. Every week I'll get a call from overseas. Somebody goes, hey, I'm retiring. I'm getting out. We served together, or I heard about you. I mean, I run into veterans doing paperwork in the Daniel Center all the time that are transfers from other academic institutions because they know that Middle Tennessee State University and the Daniel Center cares about them
They
and their family.
That's it. They want MTSU wants them there and is willing to serve their very specific, very unique needs. MTSU's always done well with adult learners, but this is a different
Yes.
a different section, if you will, a different group of adult learners, and they've put it up. They put their money where their mouth is.
And you mentioned it. We're the only place in the nation that has 2 fully funded full-time VA employees in the center, and one of them's a mental health counselor.
That's right.
And as I deal with the communities, when I talk to councils, when I talk to police, when I talk to fire, there's a lot of veterans that walk into the Daniel Center to talk to our mental health counselor.
You just need to talk to someone that understands.
And they don't want to go to the hospital in Nashville or here in Murfreesboro. And veterans and their families are such a loyal tribe. I mean, when I was in Afghanistan, Shelly selected a house in Franklin, Tennessee. And you asked me earlier how we came to be here. So my son's 39, 3 grandsons, 14, 10, and 6, and then the blessing of a daughter who's now 15. And it's a wonder to watch her grow because I miss so much of my son's growth. But both my parents are gone. My mother died while I was in Afghanistan, and Shelly's parents split their time between New York and Florida. And I believe things happen for a reason. So Shelly bought a house in Franklin. We lived in Franklin for 5.5 years. And then out of respect for this community, for Rutherford County, for Murfreesboro, for Middle Tennessee State University, I did what any military veteran would do, and that is to show my respect and appreciation. I moved my family here. We love it here, and we have a house here in Murfreesboro, and it wasn't coincidence that our moving into this house here then caused Shelly's parents to come and see our new home. And what began as a weekend visit and ended up in a 3-month hospice care scenario as her mother lost her battle with breast cancer.
Oh, no.
But the home here allowed Hospice Alive to set up a hospital room. It allowed her mom and dad their privacy, and as painful as it was watching her dad see his bride die a little bit each day, it was a blessing because my father died and I was deployed. My mother died and I was in Afghanistan. My son was diagnosed with cancer and I was deployed. And so to me, the privilege to have a home and to be home and to be there with your family during the normal struggles of life. I've dedicated my life protecting the families of the world at the expense of my own.
Sure.
So we're very thankful and we're very blessed, and we try to do the right thing. And Middle Tennessee State University and the Daniel Center allows us to serve veterans. And, you know, it's an interesting psychology when I talk about VA benefits. And I talk to businesses, any CEO, I go, I need you to hire veterans. And then if they have veteran employees, let me talk to them about their VA benefits. I mean, Veterans Day, I was on an hour-long Zoom with American Airlines at 9 separate locations.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
The previous month, I was talking to FedEx Air in Memphis with 600 veteran employees on the Zoom, just talking about, Here's the benefits you've earned. Let us help you with the paperwork. If you've submitted it and you run into problems, let me be your action officer. But most veterans, I mean, even West Point classmates of mine, 30 years active duty infantrymen, I go, how's the VA treating you? They go, well, I didn't go to Iraq. I didn't go to Afghanistan. I didn't go to Syria. I got both arms, both legs. I don't want to take the benefits from somebody who needs it. You know, we as leaders, we eat last. We never want to deprive somebody else. We always know somebody more deserving. And I got that mentality, but it's not applicable. It's not relevant. The VA benefits, whether you've served 4 or 40 years, you've earned them. Your family's earned them. The paperwork may look daunting. Let me help you. And we do that every day.
Well, and here's one example for those of you that are watching. If you know, VA loans, home loans, great product, great thing that we get to offer our veterans. But if you have any documented disability, whatever the percentage is, then you get a little added benefit where they waive some of the funding fee.
So,
and I mean,
so
that's like several $1,000s for
Right.
most folks.
Yeah. I'm a living example / victim because, you know, Shelly buys this house in Franklin and I'm still in Afghanistan. And then I got the phone call in Afghanistan from my West Point classmate, the current Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. And at the time, he was the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, and he calls me. He goes, hey, Keith, you're doing a great job. God bless you. Timing's not right. You're not going to be a 4-star. We need you to retire coming out of 2 years in Afghanistan. I said, absolutely. Thank you for the privilege to serve. Well, so I hadn't had any prep. And from the day I got back, the 3rd of July, and I retired on the 31st of August. So life was a whirlwind, and I went through some major surgeries during that time too. So we had closed on the house in Franklin, and the VA loan finder's fee was a percentage of the loan, and it was $8,000.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I had submitted my paperwork for my disability rating, but it hadn't come through.
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't waive the fee. Well, at the time, the Secretary of the VA and the Deputy Secretary of the VA were both West Point classmates of mine. I called them up and I said, hey, look.
Come on, man, what gives?
Yeah, right.
if this is a benefit that my service has earned,
Mm-hmm.
why does it have a shelf life on it?
Yeah.
And he said, this is a special arrangement with the mortgage companies.
Yep.
I said, great. But then we refinanced the house in Franklin, the fee got waived.
That's right.
We bought the house here in Murfreesboro, the fee got waived. We refinanced here in Murfreesboro, the fee got waived. But this is part of that discussion about depriving your family because you feel you're not worthy.
Well, and the other piece of that is educating, right? So there's a whole lot of people in real estate, in mortgage, all of that they just don't take the time to say, hey, if you'll wait 2 months, right? Just put the brakes on for just a second. It's going to save you, several $1,000s, several mortgage payments.
Yes.
Even. So I think that's the best thing about the center is, I've gone, I've served, I've done my service. Let me come in and learn, okay, now what? What's the next step? And maybe that's the next step for me up here. Maybe that's the next step for me in the classroom. Maybe it's the next step on getting the benefits that I've earned. Maybe it's all of the above, but let me have somebody kind of walk me through that.
One of the things that we're trying to get together at the center is, as Keith had mentioned, you have the soldiers that are like, listen, I have all my fingers and toes. I'm good. I shouldn't have to file for these benefits. Mm-hmm. But when I talk to the wives, they look at me and they're like, we have benefits coming? And no, he's never mentioned it. And I'm like, well, he spoke to FedEx or
Sure.
Delta or, whatever. And they're like, oh, well, he never shared that with me.
Guess what?
He's going to be filling out his paperwork once he gets home. So we're trying to organize a group of military wives or spouses that can come and learn about these as well, because Keith is taking a lot of time in educating the soldier, but sometimes that soldier isn't sharing that information because, like you say, that paperwork is not just one sheet of paper.
No.
It's several sheets, and it may take several hours. So we find that, the unfortunate part, some of the wives aren't aware of the paperwork. So we're organizing a coffee to get wives together so that Keith can talk to them as well.
Sure. And
let us know if you need any help with that. We'll put that out there for you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll help organize that.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's not that you. What am I trying to say? You don't know what you don't know,
Right.
and that's really the problem, right? So just mentioning that about the funding fee, you may not have even you may not have even realized that. Now it's on your radar, and so now even if you don't need it yet, it's up here, and so when you go to sit down, you can say, "Oh, I remember they talked about that."
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you, by the way, just FYI, if you need any help with that too, just let him know because he knows everybody in the mortgage industry and people that are willing to help and go out on, and do that.
I'll even take it a step further. If you want to have an evening where we have a presentation of some sort, and you want to, I don't have a good coffee machine, but I happen to own a really nice tap room. So if you want to get all of them together and have a beer and learn a little bit about that, I'm sure we can make something like that happen.
Thank you. That would be wonderful.
We can hold right at 75 folks in our facility, so that'll be a nice little meeting. But I did want to do one thing real quick, and I will tell you, Dr. Miller. Hang on one sec here. Dr. Miller, when she was on, presented John and I with these challenge coins. Yep. And if you're not familiar with this tradition. You tell me, what's the tradition here? It's better from you guys than from me.
Well, the challenge coin is given to people who have excelled. It's not something that's lightly presented. And the concept behind the challenge coin is someone awards it to you for your demonstrated character and excellence. And then the next time, and they expect you to maintain that on your person. And so the next time you meet someone in an adult setting and you slam your challenge coin on the bar, daring them to equal it, why then they equal it. And if they don't have their coin, they pie your beverage. But if they have a coin, why then you look to the seniority of the coin. So you can imagine that I've got several
Hundreds.
coins.
I would imagine you'd have quite a few.
But I always carry two coins with me. I carry the coin of my command in Afghanistan and then the coin of Middle Tennessee State University. So in this circumstance, you gentlemen would lose.
As long as we buy the drinks, right?
I guess I'm buying drinks. That's okay.
But we could say we would all win because we would share the history of the challenge coin and the privilege to share a beverage together.
Absolutely.
And,
all right.
And I will gladly buy you gentlemen a drink anytime.
Oh, no.
I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. This okay. So I'm just going to remember that now. Okay.
Yeah.
The next time I see him, go for it.
It was very kind how he said you would lose.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Well, what just for 30 seconds here, what are some things that people can do to maybe help out with the center? And then obviously we're going to work on getting some help with the nurse initiative as well. What are some things that folks can do to help out with the center?
I'd ask you that as you run into veterans and military family members, ask them how the VA is treating them. Mm-hmm. And then send them my way. Send them to the center.
And it doesn't matter if they're a student. I really want to emphasize that.
Absolutely not. And anybody you run into in any setting, and they talk about being a military brat, a military spouse, a veteran, whether it's 4 or 40 years, just go, and how's the VA treating you? And if they go, gee, lousy, or we don't get involved, or what do you mean? Send them my way. I mean, send them directly to me, send them to Dr. Miller, and we will educate, we'll fill out the paperwork, we'll help them. But I'm constantly looking for people to just ask that question, because a disability rating equates to a monthly tax-free check from the VA. It equates to scholarship opportunities for spouse and children. I mean, there's so much there that their service has earned for themselves and their family.
And disability does not equate to losing a limb or an eye or some kind of capacity, some type of function. There's a lot more to it than that. It's much more complex.
It's service-connected injuries. It's the wear and tear on your body when you were in uniform.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you guys for all that you have done
Yes,
and all
thank
that
you
you
so
continue to do for our community and especially for our veterans and nurses.
Yes, thank you so much for this time.
Oh yeah, and we're serious again about helping in any way we can. Just
Absolutely.
We'll keep in touch and we'll help out with whatever. I mean, I'd love to go deliver them with you, or whatever.
Yes,
so
yes.
Yeah, that'd be
We
fun.
put a little plug in for Waterly Company. Was so gracious when I delivered to the VA. They came and he said, "How can I help?" And he brought over 3 pickups and we filled them.
A veteran-owned business.
And what's the name of it?
Yeah, Waterly. Waterly pressure
I know
washing.
you're talking about, yeah.
Jager Williams. He's
I know him
fantastic.
personally, actually.
He is great.
Yeah. Do you know Jason Ayers? I always have a hard time with his last. Veterans home pressure washing.
Yes.
Yeah, he's our guest next week.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so-
Oh, really?
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Awesome.
he'll be here next
Give
week.
them our respect.
Yes, sir.
We
Absolutely.
definitely will.
So, but
All
again,
right.
yes, thank you again for all your time.
Ask him how the VA's treating
I
him.
will, actually,
we will.
make sure to
He
do
100%.
that.
he has a bunch of veterans that
He does.
I've talked to that
Yes.
were out at my house that I'm trying to help.
Yeah.
Good.
And Jason's such a good guy. He does so many things that people don't know he does.
Right.
And just doesn't, he's so humble about it. He's, oh yeah, I'll help with that. I'm like, you helped with that. You just like gave somebody a kidney, like the equivalent,
Yeah,
or something. Like he's just incredibly humble. So, but he's next week. So yes.
Fantastic.
Very
yes.
good.
Yes. But thank you again.
Thanks again.
And thank you all for watching. As always, we appreciate it. And my new sign off, remember, go put a smile on somebody's face today.
That's right. Have
There
a
you
good
go.
rest of the week.
See y'all.